Hi, this is an informational video about the Robertson Avenue Policy Amendment. I'm Olivia Rancine with Metro Nashville Planning. Metro Planning, for those that are not familiar, regulates growth and development in our city through zoning and land use policy, and I'll talk more about this in upcoming slides. Please feel free to contact me via email or on my phone. Hablo español. Si necesitas traducción, llámame o envíe un correo electrónico. A couple of notes before we begin. This is a policy change, not a zoning change. Policy provides several appropriate zoning categories and serves as guidance, but it isn't the law. I'm going to use the words policy and amendment and policy change interchangeably. They mean the same thing, just so we're all aware. A policy amendment does not change how you currently use your property. The policy change that we're going to be talking about today simply provides more opportunities and enables property owner to apply for rezoning for uses like grocery stores, small markets, restaurants, daycares, coffee shops, etc. Before introducing the maps, I just want to highlight that this is a policy change, not a zoning change. Policy guides zoning and provides what zoning is appropriate. I like to think of policy as kind of a constitution. It doesn't provide specific rules, but provides guidance for those rules, and those rules are zoning. And any zoning change needs to be in alignment with the land use policy. Policy provides kind of broad use and vision for an area, think like residential, mixed use, industrial, etc. And then zoning kind of gets down to the brass tacks and controls things like how many houses can you have there? How tall can a building be? Where should parking be located? How far a building is from the street, etc. So policy is that kind of overall framework of what an area should include, and then zoning really gets down into the nitty-gritty details. Just wanted to go through some maps. So first, to highlight where Robertson Avenue is in terms of the city. It's over in West Nashville, and it's shown with the yellow, and I'll highlight it right here. So this is the area that we're talking about. So the proposed land use policies for these areas are kind of starting to the east, T4 Neighborhood Center, which would be applied to the old church on Robertson and two properties across the street. And then urban mixed-use neighborhood is proposed for the properties fronting Robertson, starting at Sterling Street and Elaine Drive. Existing commercial and industrial properties along Duluth and Vernon are also included. Starting on Deal Avenue, properties that front Robertson and the properties directly behind them are included in order to activate Charlotte Park. And this policy kind of ends at Knoll Avenue and Waco Drive. This map shows you the current policies that are applied to these properties. So kind of the light purple that you see there is T4 Urban Neighborhood Evolving. And then the lightest purple is T4 Urban Neighborhood Maintenance. Both of these policies are only residential policies, meaning that if you want to go through a rezoning for your property, you can only rezone for residential use. So what we're proposing is to create a mixed-use district, or kind of a mixed-use main street for this area that would allow for things like small markets, restaurants, coffee shops to locate in this area if they chose to. So the policies that we just showed on the map are urban mixed-use neighborhood and urban neighborhood center. They're quite similar and essentially allow for things like grocery stores, small markets, coffee shops, restaurants, as well as housing. Essentially, the thing to take away here is that right now, if a property owner wanted to change the use of their property through a rezoning and open something like a neighborhood serving market or a small store, they would not be able to, because the current policy applied to this part of the Robertson neighborhood is T4 Neighborhood Evolving and Maintenance, which only allows for residential use and housing. So the point of these two policies is to have a mix of uses that can meet the daily needs of residents within a 10 to 15 minute walk and create a very walkable neighborhood. The four photos that you'll see here are different examples of mixed-use policy across the city of Nashville. Some being we have an example from Sylvan Park, from the Nations, from Germantown. This policy change can achieve many neighborhood goals. We view the area along Robertson as a potential main street for amenities that could serve the Robertson and Charlotte Park neighborhoods. We chose this area because there is historically a mix of uses from homes to commercial and industrial uses. We also extended this policy to Charlotte Park in order to draw greater attention and foot traffic to a major neighborhood asset. So good examples of parks and a mix of uses in the city are Murphy Road and McCabe Park and Sylvan Park, as well as 12 South and Sevier Park. We also wanted to capture both sides of Robertson in order to create a sense of place and continuity. Good examples of areas where you're kind of capturing both sides of the street with a mix of uses are Murphy Road in Sylvan Park, 51st in the Nations, Hillsborough Village, and 12 South. There are existing industrial and commercial uses along Duluth, which are currently not in alignment with the residential-only policy, and this policy change would provide more opportunities for neighborhood-focused development along Duluth. We also recognize that there is a need for street improvements in this neighborhood, especially for folks to walk and bike, and this policy change will include guidance on how any new development can make this area better for folks walking around. Finally, this policy change furthers a primary goal of our comprehensive plan, Nashville Next, which seeks to create complete communities where folks can walk places in their neighborhood to get their needs met. These are just some data points relating to this policy change. Roughly half of the acreage in the policy change area is zoned residential, and about half of the acreage is currently zoned for commercial and industrial uses. I also wanted to show a map of the current zoning in this area. The green, pink, and yellow indicate that these properties currently fall under residential zoning, and the teal and orange indicate commercial and industrial zoning. This map really highlights that there's already kind of a mix of zoning that exists in this area, which is one of the reasons we selected this section of Robertson. I also want to highlight that even if a property owner who's in the commercial or industrial zoning today wanted to switch to mixed-use zoning, they could not do so under the current policy because it only allows for residential use. So we think it's really important to have mixed-use policies applied here. I also wanted to briefly walk through some photos for those that aren't as familiar with the area. This is the older church and with two properties across the street, which would change to Urban Neighborhood Center. This is the area where the policy change starts along Robertson at Sterling Street, and it's kind of the starting point for the urban mixed-use neighborhood policy. These are just some sections along the street. As you can see, there's kind of a mix of residential and commercial uses. And this highlights the Breeze Block, which is a mixed-use development. There is mixed-use policy kind of already applied to the Breeze Block. This is also another section along Robertson that we're proposing to change to urban mixed-use neighborhood, again highlighting kind of the commercial and residential uses in the area. And this is the stopping point for the urban mixed-use policy along Robertson. So you can see the Ebenezer Methodist Church on the right. So this would be the kind of ending point for the mixed-use policy along Robertson. This is Duluth Avenue, where T4 mixed-use neighborhood policy is proposed. As you can see, there's primarily kind of industrial and commercial uses located here. This is Deal Avenue looking towards Charlotte Park. As I mentioned before, we've extended the mixed-use policy kind of all the way up to Charlotte Park because we want to activate and kind of create foot traffic for this great neighborhood asset. As you can see, there's some different uses happening here, and this is the entrance of Charlotte Park on Deal. When the planning department leads policy amendments and policy changes, we typically host a community meeting to solicit feedback. Since November of last year, of 2022, we've presented at 4 different meetings associated with the Charlotte Park Robertson Neighborhood Association. We attended neighborhood association meetings because it's an easy venue for us to reach out and solicit feedback from folks in the neighborhood that are already gathered together. The first meeting we presented at was held in November, and we sent notices to more than 2,000 property owners and residents. And we presented at the neighborhood association meeting, which was at Ebenezer Methodist Church, and we had over 50 attendees. We distributed comment cards that night, and the majority of folks were in support of a policy change to allow for a mix of uses along Robertson. We also presented at the January 19th Neighborhood Association meeting. This meeting was not noticed, as we typically only notice for a plan amendment once, and notices were sent to more than 2,000 folks for the first meeting. At this meeting, we kind of presented a modified, condensed version of the original plan, and that no longer covered the entirety of Robertson. Comment cards indicated that this was generally well received. On March 16th, we provided a brief presentation to the Neighborhood Association, which kind of further condensed this policy area. And then finally on June 13th, we attended the Neighborhood Association's Development Committee meeting to chat about the policy change. Typically for policy changes, as I said, we do 1 meeting. However, we wanted to try to solicit as much feedback as possible and have tailored this proposal based on that feedback. Yeah, I know this has been a lot to take in. Policy and zoning are complicated, so I just wanted to go over some key takeaways here. So right now, if you are a property owner on Robertson, Deal, or Duluth, except for certain properties, you are not allowed to create a mixed-use building that has a market or restaurants or retail that could serve the community. This policy change would allow you to request zoning that could permit these types of neighborhood serving amenities. But a big thing here is that you don't have to change how you use your property currently. So if you're in a house, nothing is changing about your property unless you as a property owner want it to. And this policy change makes it easier to do so. And then finally, one last note is that this policy change enables kind of a neighborhood main street, but it doesn't make any guarantees. It really depends on individual property owners' decisions. We can't control if neighborhood serving businesses decide to locate here, but this policy makes it easier for them to do so, because right now they can't. Okay, I know this has been a lot, so I have put together a really thorough FAQ document to help answer any questions y'all might have, and that can be found at the hyperlink shown there. I'll also include that under the YouTube video, but it's within our West Nashville section of our website in case you need to find it. After you've reviewed the FAQs, if you still have questions, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. This plan amendment, is going to the Metro Planning Commission for approval on August 24th, and that meeting is going to be held at Metro Nashville Public Schools Administration Building. All right, thank you guys so much.